Hey everyone and welcome to my channel. I hope that you are all good. In today's video I'm going to be showing you guys this stamped design as part of a Born Pretty stamping plate review, so I really hope you all enjoy watching. Now to begin with, as you can see, I'm working on some stiletto display tips and I've simply snipped off the ends to create a coffin shape. And then I thought I'd show you guys the Kiki London colours I'm going to be using in today's set. So we have Feelin Peachy, which is a gorgeous peachy nude. Then we have a Coral Whip, which is a really pretty coral, pastel coral colour. It's a really nice one. And then lastly we have a Coconut, which is such a gorgeous bright white shade. So to start off with, I just want to say I did paint 4 tips because originally I was going to do 4 nails in this design, but my little girl woke up when I was just about to start doing the 4th nail and she was feeling quite poorly. We've all got colds, bless us. It's just typical. As soon as the weather gets warmer, we all come down with a cold. So she woke up and she wasn't feeling very well. So I decided I would just cut the video short and do 3 nails so that I could just finish it off without having to come back to it the next day. So although you see me paint 4 nails, I only end up showing you guys designs on 3 of those. So to begin with, I'm coming in and I'm applying a really thin coat of colour. I like to apply my first coat of colour quite thin. I don't worry about whether it looks quite transparent or sheer or patchy, because I know that when I come in and apply my second coat of colour, it smooths it all out and it looks really nice. So I'm applying that first coat of colour to all of the nails and then I'm going to pop these in to cure for 30 seconds. So that is the Feelin Peachy on the end 2 nails and the Coral Whip is the lighter shade. So here I'm coming in and applying that second coat of Feelin Peachy, floating the second coat on ever so slightly thicker than that first coat of colour. And I do find a lot of my Kiki London colours do only require 2 coats of colour for that full opaque coverage. Now I do also have a 10% discount code for Kiki London, which I will leave in the description box below, so do check that out as you can save some pennies off your order. I was really impressed as well with how well these 3 colours work together. I wasn't 100% sure what colours I wanted to use for this design and I already had a design in mind, but I was worried that the Feelin Peachy and the Coral Whip wouldn't work together. But I think adding in the white as well really just made the colours really complement each other. Now when it comes to applying the Coconut, this is a really pigmented white. So in certain circumstances you can get away with only doing 1 coat of colour. Because I really wanted that base colour to pop, because we're going to do stamping over the top, I decided to do 2 coats. But because it's so highly pigmented, you do need to make sure that you're keeping your colours really thin, otherwise it can wrinkle when you pop it in to cure. And then this is the Born Pretty plate that we're going to be taking a look at today. So this is called Power L003. I did recently do a Born Pretty haul video which included it, but I wanted to do a separate video so that we could really take a look at some of the images and create a little design using it. And to begin with, I'm going to be using my clear jelly stamper. This particular one is the Big Bling. But before moving on to the stamping, I'm just going to remove the tacky inhibition layer from all of the nails. If you didn't want to do this, you could also apply a matte top coat instead. Usually that's what I would do, but today I decided I would just remove the tacky layer. So I have my stamping plate set up. To my side I have my scraper and the 3 or 4 colours that I'm going to be using to stamp with. All of the stamping polishes I'm using are either from Nicole Diary or Born Pretty, so they're all available to purchase on the Born Pretty website. But as always, I will leave all of the links in the description box below for you all to check out. I do also have a discount code for Born Pretty, so I will leave that in the description box below as well. Now, as you can see, whilst I was waffling away, I have picked up the first image and I was really surprised at how well this first image picked up. Because it's quite a bold, thick image, sometimes you can get a little bit of patchiness, but this one picked up really well. I did just have a little bit of excess polish here, so I'm just going to remove that with a little bit of alcohol. Now here I'm just using a little bit of alcohol to remove that excess bit of polish. You could also use some acetone, but you want to be really careful using acetone if you haven't got a top coat on your gel polish. That is usually why I would use a top coat over my colours before stamping, because then if I do make any mistakes and I need to remove the image, I can wipe off the image using some acetone without worrying about disturbing my colour underneath. Moving on to the next image, as you can see, once again, it picked up really, really beautiful. I loved how this gold leaf looked stamped as well. I think it looked really, really pretty with the gold. And I love these kind of tropical leaves. I'm seeing them around so much at the moment, and going into summer, I can see them being quite popular as well. So I was really pleased that this plate included a couple of those leafy images, because I would use these quite a lot without necessarily using some of the more fashion / abstract images that are on here. So I'm going to do another one of those leaves. This time I'm using the Nicole Diary white stamping polish. This is one of my absolute favourite white stamping polishes. I always find that it works so well, and it's so highly pigmented as well, which is what you really want when you're working with a white stamping polish. As you see there, I always remove any excess image that I've picked up using a lint roller. I find this just the quickest and easiest way. I always have it to hand when I'm stamping, and I can just press it onto my stamper and remove any excess image, and it's a lot easier than placing the excess down onto the nail and then having to remove it with your alcohol or your acetone. Let's move on to the second nail. So on this nail, we'll talk a little bit more about the actual stamping. So I'm going to begin by giving my plate a nice clean in that area of the image I want to use. Then I'm going to apply my stamping polish and scrape off the excess. Now you'll see here, because this image is quite deep, when I scraped, it removed too much of the gel polish. So if I'd have picked that up, it wouldn't have been a clear image. So what I do when this happens is I apply more polish than is needed, and then I scrape slightly lighter so that I'm not removing too much of the excess. And then you can see that image picked up absolutely perfectly. So I'm coming in with my roller and just removing any of the excess image, being really careful that you don't remove the actual image. Then I'm going to line it up and press it down firmly onto the nail. This is a little bit tricky to do when you're working on display tips, because they like to just ping off the holder. Now I just patted over this ever so slightly because I'd left a little gap at the centre, so I just filled that in using the excess image that was on my stamper. Then once again, I'm always making sure that I give my plate a good clean using some acetone, because if you come in and pick up, or if you come in and apply your stamping polish to an image that has old stamping polish in it, you never get a nice clean pickup. And as you can see with all of these images that I've tried so far, they're picking up really, really easily. I have no problems whenever I use any of the Born Pretty stamping plates. I always find that they're really good quality, and I always find that their images are etched nice and deeply in the plate, so that they always pick up with minimal problems. In the past, I have used other plates, like cheaper ones that are sort of unbranded on AliExpress, for example, and a lot of them, the images aren't etched very deep, so you never get a nice clean pickup like you do with these particular ones. And I love this gold stamping polish as well. I think it's called Wildfire, but I will double check and leave it linked in the description box below. It's quite an orange gold, but it's just really, really pigmented. And that's another thing I love about the Born Pretty stamping polishes as well. They are really pigmented. I've got a couple from Born Pretty and a couple from Nicole Diary, and I do prefer the Born Pretty ones over the Nicole Diary ones, because they seem to have a little bit of a thinner consistency but have a nice pigmentation to them. This orange one here is another one of the Born Pretty ones as well, and although it looks a little bit sheer when you're applying it, once you stamp it down onto the nail, it's quite opaque. Now the top part of this nail was looking a little bit bare, so I just come in with some of these speckles in the orange, because I wanted to try on each nail to use at least 3 of the stamping polish colours, just to really tie the set together. I didn't want to go too overboard with the nail though, so I did leave it at this. However, I do love the idea of coming in over the top of those speckles with something else, so I do that on one of the other nails. So this is the 2 nails we've got done so far. Now ideally, if I was doing a full set, I normally wouldn't do stamping on all 5 nails, so that kind of works for this video, just doing 3 of the nails, because if I was doing this as a set, I probably would leave the thumb and the thumb and the little finger bare, just so it didn't look too full on, if that makes sense. Now, I really loved this particular rainbow style image. I did think it might be tricky to pick up because the lines in the center are quite thin, but as you can see, it was another image that picked up absolutely perfectly. So once I have picked my image up, I line it up using my stamper, and then I press down nice and firmly, and I like to wriggle my stamper backwards and forwards just to make sure that that entire image transfers to the nail nicely. Again, always giving my plate a clean, because a clean plate means that your stamping images are going to pick up nice and easily. Now, to really test this plate, I wanted to pick out this image here because, again, I thought that the lines would be a little tricky to pick up because they are quite fine. So I scraped my polish in both directions, and as you can see, it picked up absolutely beautifully. Sometimes if you do have an image that's got quite fine lines, they just don't pick up nice and consistently. So I do also like to apply the polish and scrape both directions. That way I find that the thin lines are definitely filled with enough of the stamping polish, but this one picked up easy anyway. Now at the side you can see it didn't quite reach, so I do just come in with the little bit of excess that's on my stamper just to fix that up slightly. So I was really loving this stamping plate because every image that I tried picked up absolutely perfectly. So I would highly recommend checking out the Born Pretty stamping plates if you haven't already. Over the top of those white lines, I wanted to add on this feather. So I'm going to use the black Nicole Diary stamping polish for this. Now with this stamping polish, the black one, I do find that I sometimes get a little bit of smearing with it. So as you can see there, the polish, sorry, just smears, which can kind of ruin the effect. So you need to be that little bit extra cautious with it, if that makes sense. It's just one of those polishes. I don't really find it with any of my other stamping polishes. It's just this black one that seems to do it, but I can remove a lot of that excess smearing using my lint roller. So that's what I did there. Now I wanted to do the same up in the top and layer up one of the feathers, so I went for the more detailed one, but I decided I would layer it up over the speckles again. So I'm going to come in and do them in white this time, just so the bottom and the top of the image tie together. So like before, I always apply a generous amount of stamping polish and then usually just scrape in one or two directions. Roll my stamper across, remove the excess using my lint roller, and then I'm just going to press that down firmly into place. So I went for over this side, press and a little wriggle, and then lift straight off, and as you can see, that's transferred beautifully. Now in this particular video, I haven't gone into too much detail about the actual stamping because I do already have two quite detailed stamping videos up on my channel where I talk more about how I stamp, hints and tips, and sort of like stamping troubleshooting. So I will leave those two videos linked in the description box below for you to check out if you are struggling with stamping. They're kind of filled with things that I've found help me when it comes to stamping. I wanted this video to be just a little bit more about the actual plate and the more design side of stamping. So this is what the finished result looked like once I'd finished stamping on all of those images. I was really impressed with how well this plate worked and how easy it was to use. So I'm now going to come in and top coat. I really wanted these to have a matte effect just because I felt as though the peach would look lovely matte, and then I did also feel as though the gold would look really nice matte as well. So I'm using my trusty Kiki London No White Matte Top Coat. This is my favourite matte top coat at the moment because it's just so lovely to work with and it gives off a really nice velvet matte effect. So I'm going to come in, apply a thin coat of this to all of the nails. Now one thing I will say is when you're working with a matte top coat and stamping, you sometimes can get a bit of smudging. So to avoid this, I really like to make sure that my stamping has dried. So I give it around 5 minutes before coming in and top coating. Usually by the time you've finished the last nail, the first nail is going to be completely dry. And then once that matte top coat had cured, this is what the finished result looked like. So I really hope you all enjoyed watching. If you did, then please don't forget to like and comment. I hope you're all doing okay and keeping safe and well. I shall hopefully see you all again very soon in my next video. Lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.